Billionaire, killer, mass killer, serial killer. Abomination. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria is one of the most infamous names in modern criminal history, a man whose greed, ambition, political aspirations, and brutality reshaped Colombia and the global drug trade. Escobar was not merely a criminal. He was a billionaire who built an empire powerful enough to challenge governments, command loyalty from the poor, and terrorize enemies with merciless violence. His story is a study in how charisma and strategic acumen, when paired with ruthlessness and greed, can create an empire that leaves deep scars on society. There is no reliable record that Pablo Escobar personally killed large numbers of people with his own hands. Most historians, Colombian investigators, and former cartel members agree on the following points. Escobar ordered thousands of murders, but personally killed less than 10 people. Documented or widely accepted cases of Escobar himself personally committing murder are very limited, generally estimated at between 3 and 10 people. These 3 to 10 killings technically make Pablo Escobar a serial killer. These include early killings during his rise in Medellin's criminal underworld, such as rivals and informants, and at least 2 cartel associates executed at La Catedral, the prison he controlled. However, all major massacres, terror attacks, and targeted assassinations were carried out by hitmen, sicarios, under his command. Escobar avoided direct involvement in most killings. He paid assassins, often teenagers. He outsourced violence to paramilitaries. He made sure there were no witnesses when he killed someone himself. Colombian police, DEA, and intelligence agencies never produced an exact verified count of the murders. Escobar himself carried out physically. Pablo Escobar was born on December 1, 1949 in Rio Negro, a small town in Antioquia, Colombia. He was the third of 7 children in a working-class family. His father, Abel de Jesus Escobar Echeverri, was a small-time farmer, and his mother, Hermilda Gaviria, was a school teacher. Their home life was modest and disciplined. Hermilda was strict, pushing her children to excel and avoid poverty. It was in Medellin, where the family later moved, that Escobar's aspirations and darker ambitions began to develop. Colombia in the mid-20th century was turbulent. Political violence, known as La Violencia, had ravaged the countryside and fragmented communities. Economic opportunity was scarce for many, and Medellin, a growing industrial city, was home to both opportunity and criminal enterprise. Many young men drifted toward illegality, smuggling, and theft. Escobar was no exception, displaying instinctive cunning even as a teenager. Escobar's early brushes with crime began innocently, perhaps in the same way many poor youths turned to hustling. He sold stolen tombstones, scrubbed them clean to remove inscriptions, and resold them to funeral homes. Soon he graduated to forging high school diplomas and trafficking stolen cars. His ambition was already clear. He often boasted to friends that he wanted to become rich, so rich that he would have $1 million by the time he was 30. It was a staggering dream in a country where poverty was rampant, and yet he would far surpass it. Escobar's entrance into larger-scale crime came through cocaine, an illicit substance that would radically transform economies, cities, and nations. During the early 1970s, cocaine was still a niche drug, mostly transported from South America to the United States by small operations. Escobar was introduced to the trade by local smugglers and quickly demonstrated a talent for logistics, bribery, and brutality. He started by transporting small quantities of cocaine across borders, hidden inside airplane wheels, or within shipments of fruit. But his brilliance lay in scaling and ruthless efficiency. Escobar helped establish routes through Panama and later directly into the US. His operations were so profitable that he moved from small cargoes to multi-ton shipments. Around this time, Escobar became a founding leader of what would later be known as the Medellin Cartel, a colossal drug trafficking organization that dominated the global cocaine market from the late 1970s to the early 1990s. Alongside figures such as Carlos Leda, the Ochoa brothers, and José Gonzalo Rodríguez Gacha, Escobar turned the cartel into a multinational criminal enterprise. They owned private planes, processing labs hidden in jungles, and vast distribution networks. Their institutional power dwarfed that of the Colombian government. By his early 30s, Escobar had already achieved his childhood dream in unimaginable scale. He was earning hundreds of millions of dollars per month, but raw wealth was not enough. Escobar craved legitimacy. He wanted not to simply be feared, but to be admired. Escobar's public persona in Medellin was deeply contradictory. He positioned himself as a Robin Hood-like figure, distributing food, building soccer fields, sponsoring youth programs, and constructing entire housing districts, like the famous Barrio Medellin Sin Tugurios, Medellin without slums. The poor adored him. Mothers named sons Pablo. Teenagers lined up to join his organization. He understood a fundamental truth of power. Loyalty is cheaper than fear if purchased early. Escobar also entered politics. In 1982, he became an alternate member of Colombia's Congress, hoping to cement his legitimacy. For a moment, it looked as if the country might accept him. But his rivals and enemies began to expose his past, his wealth, and his actions. Journalists, particularly Guillermo Cano, editor of El Espectador, called him a murderer dressed as a businessman. Escobar responded with assassination. The political world closed its doors on him, and the public image of kind benefactor began to collapse. The Medellin cartel was not merely a drug business. It was a military organization and carried out violence on an industrial scale. Escobar commanded armies that could rival insurgent groups. Those who cooperated became rich. Those who resisted were tortured, bombed, or publicly executed. To his enemies, Escobar employed a chilling principle: plata o plomo, silver or lead. Either accept his bribe or face death. This is how he gained judges, police officers, airport workers, and even politicians. Those who refused were killed, often along with their families. Between the 1980s and early 1990s, Escobar unleashed a war against Colombia. He orchestrated bombings, assassinations, kidnapping, acts of terrorism against civilians. Escobar's most notorious weapon was fear. He understood that fear multiplied power. Estimating the number of people Escobar killed or had killed is difficult. He rarely pulled triggers himself, but he commanded others to do so constantly. Historians, journalists, and Colombian law enforcement estimate that Escobar is responsible for more than 4,000 deaths, including thousands of police officers. Politicians, journalists, prosecutors, rival cartel members, innocent civilians. Some sources claim the number may reach up to 6,000 when including indirect casualties from bombings and urban warfare. The Medellin cartel financed death squads, paramilitary groups, and hitmen, sicarios, many of whom were teenagers from poor neighborhoods who were paid to kill for £100, $500 per hit. Escobar's brutality was not selective. Even children and innocents were collateral damage. When the Colombian government began cooperating with the United States on extradition treaties, Escobar reacted with unparalleled violence. Extradition meant one thing to him: the destruction of his empire. He could bribe Colombian judges, manipulate police, pressure communities, but the U.S. federal prison system, that was his nightmare. So Escobar responded with terror. He funded campaigns of violence against Supreme Court judges. In 1985, gunmen stormed the Palace of Justice in Bogotá, taking hostage the entire Supreme Court. Over 100 people died. Many of the judges who supported extradition were executed. Escobar also targeted infrastructure. He planted bombs in shopping centers, business districts and hotels. Perhaps most shocking was the 1989 bombing of Avianca Flight 203, a commercial airline flight carrying 107 people. His target was a political rival who did not board the flight. All passengers were killed. Escobar's logic was simple. If the government did not back down, he would escalate terror. He believed that the state could not survive endless chaos. For a time, he was correct. Medellin became one of the deadliest cities on earth, with homicide rates exceeding wartime levels. Escobar was not simply wealthy, he was fantastically wealthy. By the mid-1980s, he controlled nearly 80% of the global cocaine market. His operations shipped 70 to 80 tons of cocaine per month into the United States alone. He had become the richest criminal in history. At his peak, Escobar's fortune reached an estimated $25 to $30 billion USD, making him the seventh richest person in the world at the time. Some estimates even reach higher when accounting for hidden assets. He owned private estates like the famous Hacienda Nápoles, complete with a zoo, dinosaurs statues, private airport, and luxury buildings. Hundreds of houses and apartments used for storage and smuggling. Private jets and fleets of vehicles. Thousands of hectares of rural land. Anecdotes illustrate the absurdity of his wealth. At one point, his brother reported that they spent $2,500 per month on rubber bands just to bundle the cash. They stored money in warehouses, buried it in fields, or sealed it into walls. Up to 10% of stored cash simply rotted, eaten by rats, mold, or humidity. By 1993, when Escobar was killed, his empire was collapsing. His estimated net worth had fallen to between $1 and $3 billion USD, though large fortunes were hidden and lost. Many assets were seized or destroyed, and business flow had slowed dramatically. Even at his weakest, Escobar remained extraordinarily wealthy, but wealth could no longer provide safety. In 1991, Escobar negotiated one of the most surreal deals in criminal history. He agreed to surrender to Colombian authorities on the condition that 1. He could not be extradited to the United States. 2. He could build and run his own prison. The Colombian government, exhausted by terrorism, accepted. The result was La Catedral, a fortress prison built by Escobar. Inside La Catedral, Escobar lived like a king. He hosted parties, brought in prostitutes, received cartel associates, cooked meals, drank whiskey, watched football, and issued orders via phone. He even had a waterfall and soccer field. From this prison, he killed 2 cartel associates who had offended him. Eventually, the government realized it had been humiliated. When they announced plans to move him, Escobar walked out, disappearing into the mountains. Escobar escaped in 1992, triggering one of the most intense manhunts in history. His enemies were no longer just the Colombian authorities. U.S. intelligence agencies, DEA agents, and rival drug cartels all hunted him. Most dangerous of all was Los Pepes, a vigilante group consisting of former rivals, families of his victims, and paramilitary forces. They assassinated members of Escobar's network, tortured associates, and burned his assets. They essentially hunted the hunters who once hunted them. Escobar's empire collapsed piece by piece. His family fled Colombia. His cartel partners were killed or surrendered. His wealth became inaccessible. His loyal killers switched sides or disappeared. By late 1993, Pablo Escobar was cornered. On December 2nd, 1993, one day after his 44th birthday, Escobar made a phone call to his son. The call was intercepted by an elite police unit, Search Block, backed by U.S. intelligence. The signal was traced to a neighborhood in Medellin. Police surrounded the house. Escobar attempted to flee across rooftops, but was shot and killed. He died with a pistol in hand, a defiant outlaw until the end. Photographs of his corpse circulated globally. Escobar, mustached and disheveled, lying on red tiles with a bullet wound near his right ear. Even in death, he divided Colombia. Thousands attended his funeral. Some wept for a fallen hero who had given them homes and food. Others celebrated the death of a terrorist who had destroyed their nation. A billionaire, a mass murderer, a killer, a serial killer, whose greed plunged the country into darkness. Escobar was a billionaire, yes. A mastermind of logistics, yes. But above all, he was a man who built power on blood. His empire collapsed not because of lack of money or intelligence, but because violence cannot sustain a society. It consumes itself. Pablo Escobar began as a poor child in Colombia with an oversized dream to become rich. His ambition, unmatched ruthlessness, and ability to manipulate both the poor and the powerful allowed him to build the most notorious drug cartel of the 20th century. He transformed cocaine trafficking into a global business, earning billions and bending the Colombian state to his will. But an empire built on death ends in death. Escobar's life, full of contradiction, charisma, terror, and greed, serves as a warning that criminal success is temporary, and that no fortune, no fear, no fortress can shield a man forever. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.